Silence comes to define the life and death of former Angolan President José Eduardo dos Santos, 1942 to 2022, who died recently at the age of 79 in a hospital in Barcelona, Spain. To put it another way, his command of what he said and left unsaid defined not only how he lived and governed, but also how he managed the final years of his solitary life. Angola has arguably become a country known for its opacity or lack of transparency since its independence from Portugal in 1975. It may not be wise to attribute the creation of a whole system of state operations to a single man. Dos Santos' personality, on the other hand, was crucial in shaping postcolonial Angola. Only a few world leaders have accomplished this. He despised direct confrontation, abolished the death penalty, and prevented the slaughter of the rebel movement's generals, the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, UNITA, in the aftermath of the killing of its leader, Jonas Savimbi, in February 2002. Dos Santos, on the other hand, failed to set a moral example and did little to stop those around him, including his family, from unmercifully plundering the country's resources. He was born in Luanda in 1942 and joined the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, MPLA, in the Congo when he was 19 years old. Soon after, he was sent to the Soviet Union to study oil engineering. The MPLA was facing a shortage of capable cadres at the time, allowing him to rise to the top of the organization. In 1975, Angola declared independence from Portugal. Dos Santos was appointed Foreign Minister in 1975 and First Deputy Prime Minister in December 1978, 9 months before the death of Agostinho Neto, Angola's first free president. Attractive and soft-spoken, he was chosen to replace Neto at the tender age of 37. In his inauguration speech, he conceded that replacing Neto, to whom epithets such as Father of the Nation and Immortal Guide were given, was not an easy substitution, let alone a possible substitution, but simply a necessary substitution. There are several explanations for why he was chosen to succeed Neto. One explanation is that he was young and thus easy to control. Another explanation is that he became president because the party's top structure was dominated by white and mixed-race militants. Most members of the party believed that only a black person could govern the country. Those who helped Dos Santos rise to the presidency and thought they could use him as a puppet were quickly disappointed. In the early 1980s, he began to replace Neto's advisors with younger ones known as Futunguistas. After the presidential headquarters he had relocated to Futungo de Belis on the outskirts of the city. During those years, he was preoccupied with two interconnected pressing issues that would come to define his presidency: oil and war. On the oil front, he turned Angola into one of the continent's largest producers, using oil to finance the war as well as drive economic growth. In the 2000s, Angola became one of the countries with the highest economic growth rates in the world. Angola's GDP growth rate hit an all-time high of 23.2% in the fourth quarter of 2007. He increased military cooperation with Cuba and attempted to crush UNITA militarily with its assistance. He launched Operation Second Congress in 1985 with the intention of destroying UNITA's main logistical hub in Mavinga. UNITA, on the other hand, survived thanks to apartheid South Africa and the CIA. However, the offensive, which resulted in a peace agreement, had other consequences for regional democracy by contributing to South Africa's increased isolation. This shift in sentiment paved the way for Namibia's independence from apartheid in 1990. Other events that shaped the region included South Africa's democratization in 1991 and the peace agreement signed in the same year by the Angolan government and Jonas Savimbi's rebels. Cuban troops were withdrawn from Angola as part of the agreement. In the 1992 general election, Dos Santos ran against Savimbi. Savimbi refused to accept the results after Dos Santos was declared the winner. This triggered an even more destructive phase of the civil war, which lasted 10 years. Dos Santos became increasingly convinced in the late 1990s, frustrated with the prospect of negotiating peace, that the war in Angola would only end with Savimbi's death or capture. But he needed unrestricted power to do so. He dissolved the cabinet in 1998 and began rewriting the Angolan constitution to allow him to make quick and expedient decisions without the approval of the National Assembly. This deterioration of state institutions was undoubtedly responsible for private interests' plundering of public resources. The adoption of constitutional amendments in 2010 solidified this state of affairs. Dos Santos avoided all of this by not opening his mouth. In public, at any rate. He rarely sat with reporters. He appears to have never granted an interview to an Angolan journalist and has only granted 3 interviews to Portuguese media outlets. He rarely deviated from the script, preferring to carefully read the speeches prepared by his colleagues. People spent the majority of his presidency attempting to decipher his silence. Many people resorted to making decisions based on what they thought Dos Santos expected them to do. Dos Santos remained silent even after being replaced by João Lourenço, who won the general election in 2017. The fight against corruption, widely regarded as Dos Santos's main legacy after 38 years in power, was central to Lourenço's presidency. He went after Dos Santos' main supporters, including the former president's family. To clear his name on the issue of corruption, Dos Santos made only one public attempt, and it was a timid one. He remained silent for the most part, failing to intervene even when his children were being pursued. Zeno dos Santos, his son, is imprisoned in Angola. Isabel dos Santos, his daughter, remains abroad. Dos Santos promised to give a tell-all interview. But it never happened. He died in the same manner in which he had lived and governed, in silence. José Eduardo dos Santos's most lasting legacy is his silence and what he accomplished with it. Thanks for watching. If you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories.